You are listening to the ReRACEables Podcast. Hello and welcome once again to the ReRACEables Podcast. I'm your host, Tom, joined here tonight by the crew, Jeremy, Lizzie, and Nicole. What's up, everybody?
Hello.
Oh, hello there.
Hey.
Welcome in. It's nice to have everyone here tonight. So we're starting the pre-show here before episode 5. And we have some truth coming out this week in the news. Again, we're trying not to know everything and talk about it. We're kind of keeping our distance from all the news before an episode, but then after, if it comes out, we'll talk about it on the pre-show. So the truth of the non-returning teams is what we have first here. Anthony and Spencer didn't return because of a new job and school. Sam and Connie had a baby. Taylor and Isaiah had the most troubling one. They were supposed to return. They were there to return, but there was a death in their family. And then Carl and Ray, as we predicted, their relationship did not make it through the pandemic, and they did not return. Very different circumstances for each of them. Obviously, Taylor and Isaiah will take that off. Connie and Sam. The one I think, Anthony and Spencer. Carl and Ray, right? You have a new job or you started school, you're in a relationship, you broke up. Is that a reason to give up a chance at $1 million? Or what circumstance is acceptable to give up a chance at $1 million?
Yeah, I think pregnancy is a pretty good reason.
Well, that was Connie.
I don't even think they had the baby yet. I think she was like actively pregnant. 7 months. It's hard to do a lot of things while you're 7 months pregnant.
Okay, so if we're going to start there, again, I went to the other two, but okay, let's talk about that. If you're Connie and Sam, and again, we are so happy for them that they had their baby, but are you not planning?
I wonder this, though. Did they get the option for Sam to still race and pick a new partner?
Right, like maybe his son, his adopted son.
Right.
If that had been the case, then wouldn't you think that either Caro or Ray would come back with someone new? Or is that not fair because one of them doesn't get to come back?
Yeah.
That would have added to drama for sure. Though. Are you kidding? 2 competing teams, the Caro team and the Ray team?
Yeah, I guess that opens up a can of worms just like we did in a matter of 13 seconds. So I guess that's why that went out the door. But okay, let's Connie and Sam. Again, congratulations. It's amazing, little baby. Do you think it crossed their mind? Is the race going to start again? Should we not do this? $1 million is on the line. Does that enter their head or anybody that would have been in their position's head?
To speak on, as far as planning goes, like, as we've said, like 7 months pregnant at the time of filming. And you 7 months ago or predating to the filming, they didn't know when it was going to resume again. So, they probably got the word maybe a month and a half, 2 months before filming. And they were like, sorry, we can't. And I could understand, especially with Connie's situation, like, obviously you don't want to put the baby's health or Connie's health at risk, but also pregnancy comes with symptoms. There's morning sickness, there's cramps, like you're dealing with a lot. So that would affect how they run the race?
What more do you know about pregnancy?
I know, that's what I want to know.
Yeah, I also feel...
Go ahead,
listen, when you're single as long as I am.
I was also about to say, when you're at the 6 or 7 month point, you're kind of over morning sickness. It's more like you're carting a watermelon around. Which would prohibit you to do a lot of things. That's so much.
Yeah, that might be a disadvantage on the race too. How about Anthony and Spencer though? A new job. It must have been a different phase of life, just like everybody was through COVID and everything. But Spencer, I think, was the one that came on his Instagram and said we would hope that they would consider us again. Is the job starting school? Are you buying that as a reason to not jump back in, or is that you got to give that up and come back in, especially if you want to think that CBS is going to come back in for you or want that?
It's truly a gamble. Here's the thing, the Amazing Race lasts a month, and I think we could all agree it's an unforgettable experience. But then like sometimes you really get to think what happens after that month. If you start a job that like is really beneficial to your future, let's say you're only 2 weeks into that job, you go in and you tell your boss, hey, let me take a month off for this reality show at a chance to win a lot of money. Unless the boss is like, yeah, can you cut me a piece of that action?
Might be a tough
I'm not
sell.
sure.
Yeah, not sure what I would do.
Well, we're teachers. We work in schools, right? If we sent in an audition tape, which we will, and they called us and they said, yeah, you're in, and it would take place during the school year, what would we do?
Would you get a sub?
You would do something different than I.
So you wouldn't make anything adjustment necessary to have a shot at $1 million and the Amazing Race experience.
If I was just starting a new job that I really wanted, I don't know.
How about now, 2 years into your job?
Maybe. I don't know.
Lizzie, what about you?
I'd like to think that I could work around it somehow,
That's what I'm doing. I'm taking a pay cut. I'm taking a no pay leave, whatever is necessary for this once in a lifetime opportunity, period, the end.
And a worst case scenario, I lose my job, which my job right now, that would suck a lot, but I would get a new one. I wouldn't, it's not like the job of a lifetime. So I would figure it out. And best case scenario, my boss lets me come right back after the show,
How about best case scenario? You got $1 million in your pocket.
And you get to come back to that job.
Pretty good sell.
All right, let's move forward here. The speed bump. This is the other thing that came out this week. Mike and Mo, Arun and Natalia came back and were re-put in the race. And to our shock, we went through that. We weren't expecting eliminated teams. Eliminated teams came back. The episode happened, and Arun and Natalia finished 6th, just edging out Mike and Mo, who have pulled the unprecedented double last place and first off. Probably never to be duplicated, except on Survivor for Francesca, as the specialist would say. She was voted out first in 2 different seasons, which is a record that nobody wants to ever hold, but Mike and Mo are there and they have it. So let's start here. Was it fair or unfair to have Arun and Natalia and Mike and Mo do the speed bump?
It's hard to say because we didn't see it. It's like, we don't know what happened. We don't know how long it took. We don't know how well they did. We don't know where it was. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's hard to speculate about something that we don't know anything,
All we saw.
I think the question though is like, is it fair in general for them to do a speed bump at all?
No.
And my answer.
Oh, welcome in, Josh.
No. Oh, wow.
Josh.
Hello, Josh Warner. I don't know. I'm actually gonna have to disagree. I think there is a sweet spot of the type of speed bump to do, but I think it was fair to give them a speed bump, because what does that say to the other racers at that point?
Nothing. The show doesn't go on. The show doesn't go on if they didn't come back.
All right, so that's Josh's argument. Jeremy, you think it's fair because?
Well, I think it's fair. Maybe what I should say, I think it's fair to do some kind of penalty, because I think Josh is right in the sense that because of them, the show is able to come back.
Right. Otherwise, there's only 5 teams and it's kind of trivial at that point.
And it feels like I'm cheated out of like a third of the season.
Right.
That we've all been waiting anxiously for. But at the same time, though, shouldn't we acknowledge in some form or way that they were eliminated? They did place last.
I agree. The speed bump seems like a great way of doing exactly that. I think there were speed bumps in the previous season 32 when it came to non-elimination legs. This is a little bit different. So it was, I thought, a good enough penalty. I just don't understand why they didn't show it. Why do we think they didn't show it?
Or even acknowledge it in any way.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. Did they feel like in the end it was just irrelevant because the teams ended up on the bottom anyway?
Yeah, but it seems like they ended up on the bottom because of the speed bump.
I don't know.
I have to think it has to do with story, like the storyline of the show. but I don't know how to explain it past that. I'm trying to think like a producer, but I don't know.
Maybe
As
they
a
didn't
producer, I would
want
have
to.
included it.
Maybe it was just the narrative of the celebration of the race coming back and not tarnishing it by saying, well, we're coming back, but these two teams have a penalty. And as the viewer, we don't necessarily need to know that in that episode, in that moment, returning and all of that.
And we saw a very positive response from the other teams, like happy that they were back.
Dusty and Ryan.
It wasn't like, oh, didn't they already get eliminated? It was like, oh, welcome back, guys. Happy to have you back from the other teams.
But maybe they felt that way because they knew they had this other speed bump that they had to complete. I guess we won't know. What is the right speed bump in this situation, in your opinion?
To acknowledge if it was this exact scenario, to acknowledge the fact that, again, Arun and Natalia, Mike and Mo, them coming back helped bring back the show. I think maybe doing something of what was introduced in the last season, which was a U-turn. I think, they could have done something similar of maybe they didn't have to travel a long distance, but maybe they could have done an extra element to the task that they were asked to do. So if they chose to maybe the flag routine, maybe they had to learn a couple of extra moves or one smaller extra routine for the belts. I don't know, maybe then they had to perform the story of the belt. I don't know, but some extra element to acknowledge the fact that, hey, you are back, thank you, but we are giving you a bit of a penalty.
Versus the fact that they had to get in the car, navigate to a whole other place, X amount of distance away, take all that time, complete this speed bump task, which the only pictures I saw or the only story of it was from Mo, that it was Mike and a giant fake cabbage ball, and he had to direct them where to go to knock things over. Either way, I think we're all in agreement that the speed bump was appropriate at some degree. No, Josh, you're shaking your head. No, go ahead.
No, I think that it's just a clean slate. It's like everybody's back. Who could have worked out in the 2 years, or who could have learned how to drive a stick shift car? Once you come back, it should be even game. And I will say, like, just in response to the speed bump, historically, speed bumps have been easier than detours. Absolutely. They're usually like time-based. That's probably like 30 minutes. A cabbage and having to navigate, I don't know. Maybe it was really difficult. Maybe it was too difficult. Or maybe it was really easy, but 30 minutes, they were so far behind that it's not even worth watching. And the outcome would have been the same, no matter what Mike and Mo want to say.
Mo also said that they got lost kind of driving. They got lost driving.
That would have happened no matter what.
That would have happened, right? No matter what. That was our expectation for them. But now, last thing, and we'll wrap this up. We got to jump into the episode. Any expectations going forward?
Oh, gosh. I think we're going to see a lot more of driving and navigation in addition to charter transportation.
I agree. Also, I'm thinking that this will be a group that kind of just plays their own game and doesn't really create many alliances and doesn't really create many enemies. I think they're each going to just play in isolation.
I could definitely see that happening. I feel like we haven't really seen a strong connection with any of the other teams, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if everyone kind of like kept their blinders on and played their own game.
What is the challenge that you have to do with someone else? Is that like a red light or something?
Intersection.
An intersection. I would love to see an intersection.
I would too. I thought those were great.
If we have no alliances right now, like start to stir up some drama. We want to see that. And find a way to use 2 people on one action, right? Or like 4 people on one action. I think that would be just as interesting as well.
Okay, so that's the pre-show. We're going to take a break. We're going to go watch the episode, and we'll be back on the ReRACEables Podcast to recap everything episode 5. Stay with us. This commercial break is brought to you in part by tribalcouncilblog.com. Be sure to visit all of our social media websites and give us a like or a follow or a subscribe. And don't forget to outlike, outcomment, and outshare the rest. Thanks for all your support. Welcome back to the ReRACEables Podcast. We have just watched episode 5, and let's start at the start. We have a group chat going on. As soon as the episode started, it was buzzing because of the new format, or is it new? I don't know. It's just the COVID way they're doing things, of starting the teams in groups.
I think it's ridiculous. There's no such thing as a lead anymore if you're just going to be 15 minutes behind anybody at any point. Where's this long game? It's just a short game. That's all this is. If you could, you spend a whole time running your butt off to get to the front and leaving everybody in the distance, and then what? They're 15 minutes behind you when they restart. What is this? It's not a full. I've lost a lot of respect for the Amazing Race.
Wow.
I have.
I'm not sure if I've lost respect for the Amazing Race, but I'm not happy with that outcome too. If you are first place, if you, as Josh said, you ran your butt off. If you're first place and you finished maybe an hour ahead of the second team, guess what? You're leaving at the same time as that second team, because they're starting off, and teams like 1 and 2 are starting at the same time. So great, first place may get the prize. Whoop-de-doo. But as far as strategy goes and playing the long game of the Amazing Race, of how can you give yourself as much as a lead in the next legs as possible, this new format kind of ruins that. It creates, though, an opportunity for strategy in the sense of, how much do I push myself in running this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, in the sense of, do I push myself hard enough to get first, but not hard enough to exhaust me, even though I would get this huge lead? Because at the end of the day, that huge lead, it's not going to matter.
We've seen this before, though, in some way, shape, or form, with the equalizers, the all aboards to start, right, Lizzie?
That's what I was just about to say. It's like it doesn't always look like this, but there have been equalizers where it's like everyone's all bunched up again because it doesn't open till 7 a.m. and everybody gets there at midnight. You know what I mean? Or like everyone gets there throughout the night. So I feel like this is just a new way of us seeing it. And so maybe that's why it doesn't feel right. But this principle has existed on the Amazing Race for some time.
I have to respectfully disagree on the equalizer part, because at least with the equalizer, you could spend time doing research. Like with the equalizer, you got somewhere at midnight, the place doesn't open to 7 a.m. You find a nearby hotel or library or whatever, like anywhere that could give you information, and you research. You look up what's around. You try to anticipate where you're going to be led next. You study maps.
And don't forget, now with all the restrictions, it seems like every leg is going to take place in one place. And so maybe even gaining such a lead is not as obtainable. But on the following leg, if you did beat teams by an hour, but then it's kind of squashed down to even 15 minutes more in a one city race, or one city leg of a race, maybe that makes a difference. Josh, you're shaking your head. What? You got the look of disgust on your face.
Yeah, because the world's not waiting for you. The world's not waiting for you. Each country is waiting for you.
So Josh, you're out on COVID Amazing Race. It sounds like you just.
I'm frustrated by it. There's almost I believe in those equalizers, but those equalizers, you still have to get there in time. You can still get there 8 hours late before 7 o'clock and the next place opens. In this, you have no control. The producers are controlling you. When are you going to leave? What time are you going to leave? And it's cutting up the game way too much. I mean, I was very frustrated by the buses last week. I know I wasn't able to be a part of the podcast, but those buses, everybody left at the same time. Whether you were on bus 1, bus 2, bus 3, didn't actually matter. You were all leaving. It's like, it doesn't mean anything anymore. And it's frustrating because, you know what? Someone who's going to be in the lead the entire race is going to make one mistake and they're going to end up losing because of this. There's no long game. There's no, and I talk about it all the time. I talk about how you can see teams on a decline and how they're going to be eliminated. And you know what? That's gone because it's not a long game. It's literally a country by country game. It's very frustrating.
Do you think this helps certain teams?
It definitely helps the teams in the back. And we kind of got a teaser at the end of the episode for next one. Dusty and Ryan kind of struggling. Will it make them lose the leg? I doubt it, but it would be really messed up if like Arun and Natalia end up being safe over a team that was in front this whole time.
And wasn't eliminated and didn't come in last on a non-elimination.
Yeah.
And lost their 2-hour lead because Arun and Natalia are so far behind. And now everyone's going to be equalized.
Right. So in theory, Dusty and Ryan, Lulu and Lala are departing first in the next leg. Arun and Natalia, the only teams departing third. And from when Arun and Natalia checked in last, it seemed like they were significantly far behind. The sun was setting. The greeter had to leave. And
keep in mind, there was no mention of a speed bump for them. I don't know if it just happened and won't be seen again, or what they'll do with that.
I'm curious to see if that's how they incorporate the departure time. I wonder if there will be a greater difference between the last departure time, because I think it's only 3, between the second and third departure time, if that time difference is greater than the first and second departure time, and if that counts towards the penalty. Because I agree, I was like waiting for now, Phil Kogan comes on.
Clothes.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Get rid of everything but your clothes on your back.
Right. But there was nothing and they just get another life in the game.
I loved that. That was great. When they had to all they could bring was what they had on them.
Right. Surrendering all their belongings.
Yeah, it was great.
Give us all your money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is not a thing anymore.
I mean, I didn't like them begging for money in third world countries. Didn't like that. That left a sour taste.
I feel your sentiment there, but I think that was part of the strategy of how to run the race. In addition to completing these tasks a certain way, I loved it when they had to figure out how to get the best travel. I loved it when they had to figure out how to manage their funds. Do they take the taxi or do they try to run it? Or if they cash in favors to people, we'll pay you if you could be our tour guide.
Yeah, and those variables in the race are being accounted for that much more. Ultimately, we still have some good stuff here, just to turn we were getting a little dark place there for a second.
We will still watch.
We're still very much in. I don't know.
We're still fans.
A little sentimental.
Let's go to the Roadblock. Who wants to get down? A deceiving title to the Roadblock, which dupes a couple teams. I think Kim and Penn most notably. It's a bungee jump and a big one. 722-foot bungee at a dam. They have to have the Travelocity gnome with them. They're jumping with the gnome, which seems a little dangerous. How do we feel if you're Kim and you open that up and you thinking you're dancing, and then you learn you have to bungee jump? And not only do you learn that, but then you have to get in a car and navigate to get there and spend, I don't know, probably 10, 15, 30 minutes, whatever it is, knowing that you're about to just go bungee jump.
I would be thrilled. I'm not afraid of heights. This kind of stuff is very exciting to me. I would be the one to do it, and I would scream my head off, and I might black out, but it would be so fun. I would do it in a heartbeat.
Josh, would you be pissed if that was the case? Would you have wanted to do that, or would you be okay with the result and Lizzie being on that?
I'm playing the long game, so if that's the one that she has to do so that I can do a different one, great. But if that's me and I have to do it, great. We'll see where we are in the race.
I think I would be very scared, but I'd be able to do it. I'm not really afraid of heights either. I love roller coasters, anything like that.
So would you be doing the Sherry or the Kim and kind of just fall out of the
No, I
platform?
would listen carefully to what they said. They were telling them big dive head first. So I would be like making sure that I'm going head first, not like falling off.
So it sounds like you would not be afraid at all then. You're just
I would be afraid. I mean, that is a very scary jump when you look down just from watching on TV. I can't even imagine being in person looking down and seeing that, but I'd still be able to do it.
I would be very jealous if we opened the Clue and Nicole got to do that one, because I probably would have been Penn in that situation, which he cried. Did anybody else cry on the watching of that? Nicole cried, yeah. Like just like insanely proud, but also like insanely afraid as he was, that he in that moment he's like, I thought she was gonna like die or whatever he said, which was kind of funny and not funny, but what a cool experience. And but on the other hand, it's tough. You want to be doing these things too, and I think that's part of the roadblock and that balance. But it would be tough to watch her do that and be like, oh my gosh, we're in Switzerland, we're at this dam, this is amazing. And I was like, God, why couldn't we both jump? You got to be happy in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be super thrilled to do it. But the thing I want to comment on is I loved the dupe in this. I loved how they had to open the roadblock while in town. Because usually with a bungee jump, what they've done is like, you kind of get to the site, you could look around and you're like, all right, I could get an idea of what this is about. And we've seen teams do this. Oh, this is probably this. They take the environmental clues and then they make a decision from that. This was purely like, you're reading the roadblock, who wants to get down? It makes sense when you learn it's the bungee jump, but I just loved the surprise that came with it.
Something that might have been overlooked, that Kim and Penn actually got number one when they beat Dusty and Ryan to the bungee jumping. And they turned around and said, we navigated this together. Let's do rock, paper, scissors. Dusty and Ryan came in first and held the lead and ended up winning the leg. That's crazy to give that up. And I turned to Lizzie and I said, I wouldn't have done that. And Lizzie said she might have. So I think that's an interesting take that I'd like to hear your thoughts on.
Do you feel, though, that is the foundation for an alliance? Maybe?
I think so. I think those two teams recognize that there's a little relationship there or a strength there, or
especially because they were the leading teams. It's not like they were the ones that were like in the middle or even in the back. Of course, you wouldn't do that, but they felt a safety net.
Yeah, so
That's true. And I also think it would be different. I guess now that I'm thinking back on it, I remember Kim sprinting because she saw the number board. She ran and grabbed number one.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next cut to scene was, we decided to do rock, paper, scissors because we both helped each other navigate to get here. What's the point of running to grab the first number if you're going to turn around and do it? If they had done rock, paper, scissors beforehand, and then they got the note, you know what I mean? It's like she'd already kind of claimed her stake and then gave it up. But had the rock, paper, scissors happen first, I guess I could respect it.
And then think about this a little later, and we'll talk about this when we talk about the detour, but Dusty and Ryan have a chance to kind of signal Kim and Penn, who are trying to ask for directions to find chestnuts or the wine or whatever it was, and they decided to turn their backs and not even help them. It's kind of an inconsistent thing. It's kind of, in that moment, are we going to help each other? Maybe with the driving, but with this, we'll do this, and maybe we won't. I don't know. It doesn't smell like it's an alliance.
No, I think it was just like, we're leaving at the same time. We're both in the lead. Let's get to the same spot. That was it. I think, and that's where that ended.
So
Or at least where it should have ended in Kim's world.
Let's talk about Sherry in the roadblock and how she is just a trooper. And we did a little counter of how many oh my gods and oh my goodnesses and oh my, it was 17.
17 that were aired.
That were aired. Anytime you get somebody that is so obviously has the fear of their life and on national television, it's always entertaining. I think that those 17 oh my god, oh my goodness, oh my's were just so natural. And then of course add to it the fact that Akbar couldn't do it for safety reasons because he was too heavy, so Sherry was forced into doing it.
Oh my god.
Like, of course.
I can't imagine.
I think she is definitely pulling his weight, to put it that way.
And
sure.
I loved his reaction once she did it. Read what he said.
What did
It
he
was
say?
good. It was
Oh,
gold.
Yeah, I'm chopped liver this whole way. I can't say nothing now. She did that like a straight G.
Yeah.
I hope that the new format, despite us kind of not liking the start, as we said, the one good thing I'm hoping is that it will keep Akbar and Sherry around, because I'm definitely rooting for them. Number one, they're awesome. Oh my, you get 17 oh my god, oh my goodness, oh my's. And as you see on my Instagram account, I've been putting together this graphic each week after every episode with Akbar's quotes. The guy is a walking, talking quote machine. He is an educator, and he literally talks in those poster signs that you saw in a classroom that just kind of hang up on the walls and kids stare at all year round. He's great. They're just entertaining at every level of it. Okay, so from the Roadblock, we have the big thing now is the driving to each destination. I think we're going to be spending a lot more time in cars and navigating. That's going to be the difference maker between the teams that are getting to each clue first, getting to the roadblocks, detours, whatever, with a time lead. That's where they're going to extend leads. We saw it cripple Mike and Mo and end their race. I mean, what's the best approach to handle this new version of the race where people are not as readily available and it's a little bit more on you in the car?
I don't think it's too horribly different. I think that in past seasons, they drive themselves everywhere all the time. It's just not balanced with equal amounts of public transportation. And as we saw in the episode, they're still asking for directions. Like, locals are still very kind and giving directions. I think it brings to light, if you're not good at navigation, you're really at a disadvantage now. Whereas you could maybe kind of skirt past it and rely on taxis and stuff to do some of it for you. But now it's just all on your own. But I don't think it changes too much as far as that goes.
I think in my rankings, I was thinking that the travel would be much less important, and the I'm going to say the event would be more important. Like, I was thinking you would be shuttled to a warehouse, and then in the warehouse, you'd have to complete a whole bunch of tasks. And then you'd be shuttled to another place, which still feels how we start the race. But I didn't think there would be quite as much driving. I think that is also where my power rankings stand. I really do think that Arun and Natalie have killed every challenge they've done. We saw them against Mike and Mo, and they clearly beat them doing the belts, and they're strong in that sense. They just have zero chance of navigating themselves correctly.
Well, and finding their truisers. Let's not forget that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Donald,
Where's your truisers? I have to agree with Josh. As far as Arun and Natalia goes, that they have been killing the challenges. But as far as the power rankings go, I did take into consideration navigation. Boy, did I take Arun and Natalia's word completely the different way. World travelers, come on, you can't navigate, this one country.
Not even close, not even a little bit. They are terrible.
In this episode, they acknowledged it's a weakness, but it's just multiple times they've been going in the opposite direction for long periods of time. They know how
detrimental. Because you're a world traveler does not mean you're good at navigating.
Listen, I had hopes, okay?
Well, especially now that it's not, going back to Josh's point, it's not necessarily a global international traveler race.
Mhm.
It's a local race. It's a go to this one place, and yeah, maybe it's a country and I'm oversimplifying it, but I think we're going to be spending a lot more time in the car, and these, if nothing else, these navigation issues are going to sink Arun and Natalia, because eventually they're going to run out of lives here in the game.
I agree.
Yeah.
Moving forward, let's go to the Detour. We had the Bartender Race, or Sausage and Case. I like how they still rhyme those. This Bartender Race, we have a 400-foot staircase to hell, as Akbar put it, where you had to carry up 12 bottles of wine and 12 bags of chestnuts. And then the other choice was the Sausage and Case, which was picking up the sausage from a local vendor or whatever it was, 9 feet of the sausage in the casing, and make 4-round sausage, 4-round sausages in maybe 6-7 inches of diameter. Which was the better choice?
I think if you are Dusty and Ryan, you do the staircase, and they really explained that, thought out. It's like no mental capacity, just physical, just do it, bust it out, and then be done. And that's what they did, and that's what worked for them. I think I probably would have died had I done it. So I think we would have chosen the sausage making. Josh is also a big fan of machines and mechanisms and things. And so I think, and we both like to cook. So I think we would have had a better time over there.
I also would have taken the sausage route. I don't like any challenge where in the challenge you have to navigate from one place to another. There was an awkward grip needed for the wine bottles, in addition to the obvious like physical endurance needed for it. Sausage, it's pretty simple. You watch a model, you do it.
I think we would have gotten to even if we chose the Bartender Race, we would have gotten to those stairs and pretty quickly been like, either I'm grabbing all 12 bottles of wine and you're grabbing all the damn chestnuts, or we're out of here, because this is just outrageous.
I had the same thought right when they said, what was it, Bartender Race? I was like, oh, boom, done. I was like, bartending freaking, let's do it. How many drinks can you make in a minute? That's great. Let's do it. And then they showed the staircase, and I was like, abort mission, abort, switch challenge. I was like, let's never, not even try. Let's not waste our time. Go back and do the sausage. Once I got a glimpse of what that was, it's like, absolutely not. But it was a misleading title. I thought that they were actually going to be making drinks.
So
I do want to mention that with that Detour, though, I don't know, maybe the sausage overall was a better one. Yeah, Dusty and Ryan, I think, had good logic. But let's recall from the episode what happened as Dusty and Ryan were running to the pit stop. Dusty got a Charlie horse. Dusty pulled a muscle. Akbar and Sherry, we could see they were out of breath. Kim and Penn too. The teams that did the Bartender Race were so winded from the stairs that actually made running to the pit stop harder. Lulu and Lala, who came in second, I think they were correct me if I'm wrong, they were the second to arrive at the Detour, right? I believe.
Yes.
I think so.
But they were able to still maintain a good lead and still make good headway to the pit stop. I would have chosen sausage because, similar to Josh, I like machinery. I like technique. I'm very much about that. But I just think when you have a task that requires you to almost run to a pit stop, maybe it's sometimes you don't know it at the time, but maybe it's wise to think about that as a factor, is if we're going to need to run somewhere after this Detour.
Oh, I just mean if Dusty and Ryan arrived and then they have 12 hours until they're going to race again, I wonder if, let's make this up, that Lulu and Lala got there an hour later, but now they have 15 minutes behind Dusty and Ryan, meaning they have an extra hour of rest. Is that right? So if you're going to start the race 15 minutes behind the next person in the lead, then why ever run to the finish line if you can get more time to sleep? As long as you're not in last, whatever time you get there.
I guess
Yeah.
a perk would be, they always do the first place prizes. If you know you're in first place or somewhere in the front, I would want to run.
No, you don't play the game for the prizes. Come on.
I would
I
take
You
don't
a
play
know.
the game to win.
I would take a 4-night stay in Iceland. Thank you very much.
And a trip to Dominica sounds pretty damn good. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever it is. Like if I know for sure, maybe if I know for sure we're number one, I'm not gonna run. But if it's like a neck and neck tie, why wouldn't you? You're on the Amazing Race, especially after you've just been standing there making sausage. It's like you've got energy to burn. Go ahead and run.
You're on it.
Earn that couples massage and out to dinner and swimming with sharks or whatever else they give away.
Especially after the 19 months that we spent not having those things. I think you take every opportunity, even if that trip is not for another year and a half because of all the restrictions. You're taking that damn trip to Dominica. You bet I'm taking that trip.
You
bet
bet
your
your bottom
fanny.
dollar.
Yeah. The Detour came down to a 50-50 split. Dusty and Ryan, Kim and Penn, Akbar and Sherry did the bartender race. Lulu and Lala, Raquel and Kayla, Arun and Natalia did the sausage and case. The only one that was surprising to me was Akbar and Sherry. Sometimes I think that they are still living their glory days of being former Division I athletes, and they do have that competitive drive. But I was not surprised, but I was surprised that they didn't look at those stairs and just say, no freaking way. No freaking way. Kim and Penn had all 12 chestnuts in one carry versus Dusty and Ryan did an extra carry just for the chestnuts. I wonder if you could have dumped all the chestnuts into different compartments of your backpack, or tucked your shirt in and dumped all the chestnuts into your shirt, and then just hammered out maybe one trip with the wine on you and all the chestnuts, and then you get to the top, you dump the chestnuts into the bags, and maybe it's not worth the risk. But I know I'm definitely looking at those stairs, and if we're locked into that, I'm trying to manipulate it any way I can so that we're doing less trips, because that looked freaking brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you. It wasn't made clear based on what was aired to us, the full remnants of Bartender Race, but like, who's to say, hey, can I borrow that basket of yours? Load the chestnuts in, load the wine in, get one person each side of the basket, carry it. Because as far as I know, as an audience person, it was just carry these up the stairs to them without dropping them or having them break. So whether that's using any kind of container you can manage to conjure.
And why not try carrying 12 and just some break? You don't have to go back to the finish line. I would have tried carrying all 12 myself.
Yeah, you carry on.
If I drop 3, it's better than only starting out with 3.
Mm-hmm.
And dropping 2 or something, or dropping 1 then, and then you only have 2.
And the guy wasn't counting how many chestnuts were in each little cone.
That's true.
That could have been a lot harder.
If a couple fell, he wouldn't have known.
So let's go to the pit stop. Dusty and Ryan first, Lulu and Lala second, Kim and Penn third, Raquel and Kayla edge out Akbar and Sherry for 4th and then 5th, and in last, dead last, again, Arun and Natalia. But there's a non-elimination. Any surprises there, or is it what you expected? And then your thoughts on the non-elimination.
I'll say I am being more and more surprised by how well Lulu and Lala are doing. I think they ironed out all of their kinks from the first episode when they were like fighting and stuff. And I feel like I can tell that COVID really impacted them and their family, and they kind of have a totally new mindset about things. Whether or not they're physically better at anything, I don't know. But I feel like there was just some sort of like mindset switch for them coming back, and they've been doing incredible. And I'm loving watching them. I'm so entertained by them, and I think that they're gonna go much farther than I ever thought that they would, and they are doing it. And it has surprised me, but I like it.
I was not surprised by the non-elimination leg. You knew it was coming. You know they're gonna be scattered throughout. We had an elimination last time. We knew this was coming.
For a second, though, I thought that they might just cut off Arun and Natalia. They came in last again, and that would have been it. I could have easily seen that. But other than that, I think the top 4 teams are pretty clear. I think that they are there's a little bit of a gap between Dusty and Ryan, Lulu, Lala, Kim and Penn, Raquel and Kayla, or maybe just the top 3. I don't know. Raquel and Kayla are kind of up and down this leg, but then the other 2, Akbar and Sherry, just their physical limitations are always going to kind of put them behind the 8 ball, especially in a 1 city per leg race. And then Arun and Natalia, I mean, they are just a dumpster fire of navigator, and they got a lot of issues and going on, but nothing surprised me there. But the teaser was the big thing that surprised me, to see Dusty and Ryan kind of like the Russian in Rocky 4. They get cut and they're bleeding. That they are human.
Tom, can we put on the record what is the percentage that, as you say, the bottom 2, Arun and Natalie and Akbar and Sheridan, what are the odds that they get eliminated next episode? Granted, it's not a non-elimination.
I think it's got to be in the 80%, 90% that one of those 2 are out.
90%.
It's up there in the high percentage that one of those 2 teams will be out. Physically, the weaker ones, they can't navigate the problems for Arun and Natalia of navigating. Like, that's just gonna kill them. It already has.
Even though Arun and Natalia are still my number 1, and Akbar and Sherry are pretty up there for me, I have to be real here. I don't think I'd go as high, but I back that there's a good chance one of them is going to be out. I just feel all the other teams, with the exception of Raquel and Kayla, just performed a really well done and strong leg. So talking about Dusty, Ryan, Lulu, Lala, Kim and Penn, those 3 really strong leg. They got a drive going. Raquel and Kayla, they were feigning a bit in this, but I think they still got it. So it's, unless something really comes up that's shocking, there's a good chance it's those 2.
Great communication too from the ladies on the purple team, especially given their relationship and what they're racing for a different reason too. They're 19 months, like you said, Lizzie, was different for Lulu and Lala, and they're with a different purpose. I think these 2 girls, they lost their jobs. They have a renewed purpose and kind of being able to travel again and do what they do for their livelihood. And I think they're as happy as anything to be there with each other. Thanks, guys, for being here. Appreciate everybody. We'll be back next week to talk about episode 6 on the ReRACEables podcast. Until then, the blog has spoken. Thanks for being here.